Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher alongside Adam Caplan. It's Sunday, March 15th. You know what that means. We are on the eve of NFL free agency. So what Adam and I have decided to do is do a podcast where we answer all of your free agent questions, and involved in those answers will be some more information that both Adam and I have gotten recently. And by the time you're done listening to this, I feel like you'll have a really good idea on the direction the Eagles are headed in when the madness begins on Monday. Now, a quick note here. The two podcasts we will do this week, we're going to add to that. We're obviously going to have videos for the YouTube site, and we're going to have stories on InsideTheBirds.com, because we're going to try to keep everybody updated as soon as signings happen with both the Eagles and the NFL in some form or fashion. So if it's not the podcast, it'll be the website. If it's not the website, it'll be the YouTube channel. Adam's going to be very busy. I'm going to be busy, but no matter what, we will have you all covered. So with that being said, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Inside Birds, or Adam at Caplan NFL, myself at Geoff Mosher NFL, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, Inside the Birds, and on our website, InsideTheBirds.com. All right, so we're going to get into it. Adam, I know you're excited. You're fired up. This is like your time of the year, brother. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's I get no sleep. I feel like it's like final exam, for roughly, 36 hours I don't sleep. Nice. And, when I was at ESPN, my wife would say that my phone was my mistress. It's always on vibrate. I mean, what can you do? I mean, I really don't sleep. So I felt like there was a joke in there. Your phone's your mistress and it's always on vibrate. Yes. Yeah. Yes. But, it's funny. I wasn't meant to be, but actually good job, Mosher. I should have caught that. Thank you. But anyway, look, the bottom line is it's going to be very busy for us. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm putting my scoops out. And then what I'm going to try to do when I get time is do 45-second videos just to update my reporting. And then what we're really going to do is when Geoff and I slam out a show, because this is our first show of the week, our second show, whenever we get to do it, is really going to be in depth with what happened with the Eagles and why they brought these players in, and what I'm hearing and Geoff's hearing on how they're going to use these guys. Because that's the key. It's not just signing the player. How are they going to use these guys? And I'll say this about Harry Roseman. People question his drafts, and that's fair game. But I went back. I spent like 45 minutes on Sunday morning going over every free agent signing he had since he came back in 2016. Wow. The mistakes, Geoff, they're all like low-end guys. Corey Nelson, LJ Ford. If you want to blame Ken Flagel, go right ahead. Zach Brown didn't cost him very much money. No, yeah, you're right. They were not. No, nothing really. Nothing that hurt them. It wasn't. That's the good part about it. The thing is now, though, as we go into the show here, and we're going to get to your questions in a second, they have a lot of needs this time around. And it's going to be much different from previous free agencies, because the last two free agencies, 18 and 19, very, very quiet. Howie did not do a lot. Some mid-range guys, but not a lot of big splash moves. I think you actually outlined that. They didn't really do that. Like Brandon Brooks, it went up being a big splash in a way because he turned out to be a superstar. No one knew that when they signed him. He turned out to be a great signing. And we'll get to your questions in a second on what kind of guys are going to want. But It's going to be a little different from 18 and 19. They're going to go for it with a couple players. Absolutely. And we look forward to kind of giving everybody the update on the news as it happens, and then summarizing it, as you mentioned, not just the what, but the why. So we'll get into these questions. First thing I want to do is give a shout out to our sponsors, DraftKings. Even though there's no sports that we all love to follow, no NBA, no NHL right now, pretty much nothing, you can still go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, their number one sports rated app, and put a futures bet down. If you like a team, once baseball starts picking up, if you like the Yankees or you like the Phillies, you can put some money down on that. You can do a lot of futures bets and prop bets still going on DraftKings Sportsbook's number one rated app. So make sure you're doing that with DraftKings. And of course, we want to thank our friends at PHL Sports Nation. I'm sure their content will continue to enhance the fan experience, coverage of the Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, you name it, Eagles, even in this drought right now, just like us. I'm sure they're producing some great content. So make sure you go check them out. And really quick before we get into the questions, Adam,
the new CBA is out. I mean, it's been ratified or agreed on. So the new rules are in place, and they'll allegedly be harmony for the next 10 years. But a lot of people are wondering what that will mean for Alshon Jeffrey. Will he be cut now because of the post-June 1st designation or not? Your thoughts?
This is just me speaking because Eagles have not made a decision. I don't think he'll be on the roster come September again. This is just an opinion. The reason is very simply this. He's 30 years old. He's coming off of a significant injury. They owe him a lot of money. He's not taking a injury settlement. And why would he take an injury settlement when the money they owe him is fully guaranteed? It's just the $9.9 million base salary. He's got the option bonus, which I talked about a couple shows ago, which is fully guaranteed. It's got a non-exercise clause on it, so they got to pay him regardless either way. So, Geoff, the bottom line is with Alshon, with the post June 1, because they have the new CBA, they pretty much have to pay him whether he's on the roster. The only question would be, could they find someone to take his contract? I would say no. It's basically impossible. As is, who the hell would take this contract?
I don't know. We've seen cases where somebody will take a contract if you give a high pick, but I'm not sure how he wants to be in the business of giving away a high draft pick either this year or next year just to get rid of Alshon.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're just, and you don't know at 30 years old coming back from this injury what he's even capable of doing.
Right.
So they could half it. By the way, just because there's people seem to be confused with the post June 1, you must carry his contract in full until through June 1. On June 2, you could half it, the cap hit over 2 seasons. So you don't get the relief as they call it until June 2nd. So that's their option. Either keep him on the roster this season, which I find hard to believe they're going to do, because I just don't think they can get out of anything out of him. I just had with this injury and his age, Geoff. You've watched this guy play. When he's at his best, he's physical. He'll go get it. He's a very good football player, by the way.
He is.
But we don't know if he'll ever be the same. And number 2, then you got the stuff off the field, whether he took shots at the quarterback or not, we'll never know for sure. When you look at the whole package, I just feel like they're going to move on from him. But that's, again, just my opinion.
Right. The only thing as I've thought about Adam, where I can maybe see him being with the team for quite a while, is if they see the rehab through, and let's say he's ready to go by October or November, but they still want to get rid of him, and there's a team out there that's pretty good but just had major injuries at wide receiver like the Eagles just did, then maybe Howie's able to facilitate a trade because Alshon is healthy at that point, and all you're really getting back is a very low pick. But that's unlikely. It's just kind of, as you always say, you never just say never with the Eagles and with free agency and with trades, and so that would be one open door that I could potentially see happening. But I don't know.
The problem, right? The problem, it's unlikely because here's why. Unless Alshon's not going to take less than he's going to make in cash about $11,500,000. He's got $9.91 million in fully guaranteed base salary. He also has an option bonus that's fully guaranteed. They can't walk away from that money. I know. And so what I'm saying is, if you have the ability to hold on till he's healthy and maybe get a 6th or a conditional 5th or something, instead of just cutting him and getting nothing, maybe it's just worth seeing it through for a few months till his rehab is done. Right, but he's not going to be he's not going to be fully healthy until the fall. Then here's what you would do, though, because this has happened before.
That's what I mean, though. I'm talking about a trade in the middle of the year.
Right. What you can do on what you're saying is you could actually give him permission. Let whatever team has, if there's any team that would want him, you send him over there. You go, hey, why don't you take a physical for him? Because you could send him the scans, but you're going to want your team doctor to look at him. Again, this is highly, highly unlikely that this would ever happen. But by the 1% chance that the Festivus miracle happens here, and they're able to move him, I mean, it's just, as we entertain this, it's right. We're entertaining it. But the fact that matters with Alshon, it's unfortunate. It's one of the few bad bets they've made on restructures, and it is what it is.
It is. All right, let's get to these questions, Adam. First one comes from Twitter at Brian B 345-90134. Beverly Hills 90210. Now that it's confirmed that Byron Jones is going to hit the free agent market, who are the top competitors for the Eagles who might also be looking to sign him? And as you've mentioned many times in the past pods, Adam, that yes, the Eagles are interested, very interested, but there would be competition.
You're significant competition. I'm not a percentage guy. I never do that. I know reporters do that. You're asking for trouble. Things change within a heartbeat. What I would tell you is Eagles want him very badly. The Raiders want this player. I believe the Jets have interest. There are probably two other three teams that have interest. I mean, I talked to so many teams at the Combine. The reason why they have so much interest in this player is because you can use him at safety, slot corner. We've talked for a year and a half now on our show how many times he's covered Zach Ertz.
Right.
You love that ability. We've talked about the one negative, the lack of turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been scheme based. By the way, their secondary for years in Dallas did not get a lot of turnovers. Right. It wasn't just Byron Jones. But to sum this up, Geoff, they're going to have a lot of competition.
Yeah, by the way, I can see the Giants, the Redskins, and Broncos, all teams that need cornerback help and have money to spend. That's where you kind of connect the dots. Teams that have money to spend and that need cornerback help.
Right. The Jets, Joe Douglas, it's funny. He was brought up in the game by the great Ozzie Newsome, the Hall of Fame general manager. But, I would say that the one thing that Joe learned is, Joe came in after the 16 draft and he saw how well those free agents did. If you get the right guys in your building, you could do both, draft and free agency. And by the way, they got a ton of cap space and a ton of cash to spend.
Right.
The Jets, as we speak, are going to be all out in free agency. If they get the contracts that they want, they're going to be spending a lot of money. So we'll see.
Right. Well, I just know based on history, right? Yeah. Whenever the teams like the Jets and the Raiders, who are free spending teams, get involved, the price tag tends to rise. And sometimes it then comes down to whether the player or not wants to be the highest paid corner or just go to a winning organization. Now, that doesn't mean the Eagles won't offer the most. I'm just saying that a lot of times with the Jets and the Raiders, they're willing to be the highest paid guys, the team that makes them the highest paid at their position.
And I would add to this structure. It's not just 17 to 18 million a year, whereas we speak when we drop this Monday morning, where I think the number could go. Mm-hmm. It's contract structure. The Eagles do contracts a very specific way the last 3 or 4 years with option bonuses for cap purposes. Don't forget the Raiders, Geoff. They're in Nevada. He will play in Nevada. Mm-hmm. That means that's a non-tax income state. Non-income tax state. That is huge when you're talking about this kind of money, Geoff.
Oh yeah,
that's a big tax structure difference than they have in Philly. Though I think Philly's is not bad for being a big city.
Right.
Certainly better in California, but it's not Nevada, and that could play into it. Don't be shocked if he goes to Oakland that has a big reason that's part of it.
Let's go on to the next.
Excuse me, not Oakland, Nevada. Sorry,
Vegas. No, I knew what you meant. Yeah, L.A. Yeah. I mean, not L.A. Las Vegas. LV.
I can't get it right anymore.
We should just move on to the next question before we butcher this one anymore.
Yes, go ahead. Oh, you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, it's from Twitter. Cameron Greenfield at CamBam1995. I'd love to get younger on defense and start moving from these older players. The Eagles want as many young players on the field. Cameron's referring to what Howie Roseman's been saying. Mm-hmm. Why don't they move Maddox to safety and let Strap play, which is Crevon LeBlanc, play the slot, then draft a safety for the Corey Graham role? Here's the way I would answer that question, and certainly want Geoff's opinion. I think when you look at Avonte, Geoff, mm-hmm. Avonte is sort of he's a movable chess piece. I'm not totally sure that he will be a slot corner for the rest of his career. I mean, this is a really good, interesting question. Mm-hmm. I think it's to be determined. Right now, he's a slot corner. There's no question. He's played safety before. He shocked us 2 years ago when they played the Titans, when we were guessing who it would be. And it was Maddox who surprised us. He's a pretty sharp kid. Crevon LeBlanc, Geoff, is this guy a full-time slot? What do you think about him?
Yeah, I think that to me is the big obstacle, is that although he's played well in the slot, he's had some injuries. He was on the street a few years ago. I can't trust that Crevon LeBlanc is going to be a full-time slot corner for 16 games, or 17 now, and then even more with the playoffs, right? So I don't really like to strengthen one area by weakening another. I think Avonte Maddox plays well at safety, or at least in the dose that we saw him. But to me, he is a slot corner with the ability to move to safety if needed. You start moving him around and then you have to move him back. I don't want any of that. I would rather see the Eagles draft good safeties, and we'll see if they bring back Malcolm Jenkins now, or I should say if Malcolm Jenkins decides to play under his current deal now, the Patriots and Devin McCourty just came to an agreement. Malcolm and Devin are the same age. In fact, Devin's a little bit older. And
so, by the way, that deal, I'm told total compensation in year one is $14 million. Now, I don't know how that's. I haven't seen the structure yet. I'm just told by a source who knows about the deal.
Okay,
that is unbelievable. Even if it's $8 million in base salary and workout bonus plus roster bonus plus per game roster bonus, even if that's the $14 million, that's still really good. I am stunned. No wonder he stayed. You know, it's so funny. The Eagles offered him a better deal than he got in the Patriots, and that mega extension he got many years ago.
Yes, I remember.
He's going to come to Philly. Yeah, it's really crazy.
Yeah, how about that? But he stayed and won a Super Bowl there. And, Malcolm came here and won a Super Bowl. So hopefully these sides work it out because I think the Eagles need Malcolm. I think they have to draft developmental safeties, and then eventually Malcolm goes from starting safety to then moving to, a situational safety who still plays 65% of the defense like most of the second and third safeties do on the Eagles. So we'll have to see. But in general, I like keeping Maddox in the slot and only moving him if they have to instead of the reverse. Let's get to the next question from Ted at Less Than Ted on Twitter. Adam, who is a free agent the Eagles should absolutely stay away from? And I have a few names that come to mind on this, but I'm curious if there's one or two that you think that probably is not worth the money that they're going to get on the market. I'm
going to answer it this way. The mantra with the Eagles going forward, and they've said this certainly publicly, Howie Roseman did, and I understand privately, they are going to do their best to stay away from injured players. No matter how talented some of these injured players who are going to be available are, I just don't see them going in that direction. I think they'd rather go younger than take an older veteran who's got talent, who's proven, but it's got a significant injury history. I feel strongly they're going to go away from these type players. Desean Jackson, I didn't have a problem with the trade. But you can't rely on a guy who's 33 years old. Well, he turned 33 when they had him last year. He turns 34 this December. Right. Whatever they get out of Desean this season is a plus. As I said, I don't know, 5 or 6 shows ago, folks, by the way, listen to all of our Geoff and I listen to our shows. There's some great stuff on there, and we appreciate the comments. We break down a lot of players, the team's feelings. But to sum this all up, Geoff, I just don't see it. And by the way, draft too. We're not doing draft on the show. In about a week and a half, it's going to be all draft. But I could tell you, they badly want to go away from injured players. Right. So if you're going to name names here, I mean, you look at and not just injured, but I think older players. I don't think they want to really get in bed with too. And so 2 names that have been kind of linked to them were Emmanuel Sanders and Chris Harris. But if Howie Roseman is really trying to get younger, I don't know that you give these guys long-term deals, and they may in fact get 3 or 4 year deals on the market. Yeah, and Chris Harris is an older player. He's better in the slot than outside. Great character guy. Been a great story. He's an undrafted free agent. It would stun me if they sign him. It would be counterproductive. He turns 31 in June. He's also just under 5'10". What sense would that make? I don't see it. I just don't. I don't. By the way, I've not asked anybody. Because he doesn't fit their philosophy, I haven't even asked about him. I'll be honest with you. Right. I did last year, and there was mild interest. I don't see it. I just don't see it. All right, let's move on from Twitter from George Hutton at G_Hutton12. He says, I enjoy listening to the show. You guys talk a lot about players who might leave the Eagles due to free agency. Could you guys go into who they might sign with in the offseason? As a fan, I'm interested in seeing where our guys land. And so let's break it down. I mean, the biggest, and I put quotes around that name that's probably going to leave the Eagles is Halapulavati Vaitai, Big V. And as you reported, Adam, he's going to get a starting deal to play right tackle somewhere. Do you have an idea of what teams might be really in the mix for a right tackle? I would tell you this. When you look at the right tackle market, the reason why he's going to do real well in free agency, we're talking about Big V here. Here are the free agents that here. Ricky Wagner was cut. He was the Lions' right tackle. Okay, Tampa Bay. So they need a right tackle. Tampa Bay needs a right tackle. DeMar Dotson's up. He may retire. The Jets need a right tackle. The Jets need a right tackle. They also need a left tackle. Right. But I'm telling you, I talked to probably 9 teams Every
Wow.
team said the same thing. They think Big V's a right tackle.
Right. But they're willing to. You said they're willing to pay for it. What kind of money are we looking at for Big V here? And I'm bracing myself for this answer.
$8 to $10 million a year is what I think he gets.
God bless him. The Packers,
but he's undrafted free agent. He's he's an unrestricted free agent.
The Packers signed a guard last year whose name is eluding me right
now.
Billy Turner. And I think he made $8 or $9 million. So if that's the case,
me, right?
So what do you think?
Well, by the way, he played well, by the way.
So what do you think Big V's going to get? He's a tackle. He's probably going to get 9 to 10. So I think you're hitting on the head.
And he can play guard if you need him to. So he's a great kid. See, he doesn't have left tackle feet. God bless him. He did really well in left tackle. He shocked the world during the Super Bowl run. Mm-hmm. But if you're extrapolating for 6-7 years, he's a right tackle.
How about Ronald Darby? He went and visited the Kansas City Chiefs last year, but they just felt with him coming back from a knee injury and them doing a changeover to a 4-3 and a new defense that it was going to be too difficult. Do you think the Chiefs is there a team out there that you feel like is better suited for Darby to play maybe that man press on the outside?
It would be good. Shaw Breeland's up, Kendall Fuller's up. I mean, that would make some sense, but he's got to be looking at a prove-it deal.
Right.
I mean, he got a really good salary for 1 year. I mean, with his injury history, I know he's still very young.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to pay him. I mean, he's got a pretty good agent, but
I think he's going to wind up signing a 1 year deal, don't you?
Exactly. That's what I was. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe the Patriots. Don't see him
nothing would surprise me, and they've had such luck with.
Yeah.
Look, they've had a lot of luck with 1 year. Bring these guys in who are looking for a chance. Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who else plays that outside man. Maybe the Saints. I don't know what's going to happen with it because the Eli Apple's a free agent as well. Correct.
Yeah, he's up. They've got to try to get Von Bell back.
Right.
That's going to be a pretty significant deal.
Mm-hmm.
This
maybe
is
Miami
fun,
Dolphins because he's still young and he can run, and they play the same style of defense that the Patriots play. I could see the Dolphins trying to.
They got like $1 billion.
Yeah.
Under the cap. It's just they have so much money and cash and cap to spend.
Right.
But yeah, just overall, so we can move on for the next question. A lot of these guys, when you look at the Eagles free agents, Geoff, they're just middle of the road. They're just not Big V because he's young and he's got tremendous versatility. He's going to get paid. He's been a real good story of development. Nelson Aguilar's coming off of a significant injury. His knee injury is way worse than people understand. Jordan Howard, there'll be some interest because he played his tape, I'm told, was very good before he got hurt. Before he had the stinger issue. Camus Grosjean-Hill, he's coming back from injury. Rodney McLeod, we'll have to see about him. I know the Eagles, as I reported a while back, they have interest in bringing him back. The one and Hassan Ridgway, I don't know why they wouldn't want him back. He played well before he got hurt. Jalen Mills, Geoff, I don't know. That's the one I love to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you reported that the Eagles want Vinny Curry back.
I do, but I also, so do several teams want Vinny Curry, and that'll be interesting.
Wow.
We didn't bring this up, but it'll be interesting to see. Last year Vinny took a visit and he went out to the Cincinnati Bengals. This year we'll have to see if these kind of free agents, the guys who like to take visits before making a decision, or even teams like to find out a little more, what's going to happen because a lot of facilities are closed. Airline travel, some people may not want to get involved with. So we'll have to see what happens with guys like that who don't typically sign on the first few days of free agency and like to take visits. Yeah.
I look, Vinny is Vinny's a good football player. Boy, that was he's and he's obviously a great guy. He's a perfect third DN.
Yep. But
the one thing before we move on, we're not really going to do draft stuff here, but the one thing I do want to mention is the Eagles got to get better speed on defense. We've talked, people are sick of us talking about the receiver position with speed. They need more speed on defense, man. They're speed deficient on this football team. They really are.
Absolutely. And both on offense and defense. You're right.
Yes, correct.
So,
yep.
All right, you want to move on? You have another question?
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of them. This is interesting. From @hotcakes_33. Do you think all this Dillard Peters talk from the Eagles is strategy to help Peters get paid more from another team by creating appearance that they want him back, don't trust Dillard? No.
That's a good conspiracy theory.
It's really interesting, Hotcakes, my friend. We've outlined Dillard for several weeks. Unbelievably talented, but he's got to get himself together. He's got to get stronger physically. He's just got to want it. He's got to want to be the guy. Peters, they left the door open. More often than not, these guys don't come back. I'm not a percentage guy. I just Geoff got us on this weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just got to go with Dillard. Trust Jeff Stoutland. Now the question would be, do they go find do they bring in a veteran to either compete or back him up, who's had starting experience? That to me is a better question.
There you go. I don't think that it's a great conspiracy theory. I don't know that they would put that information out there, but I think it does validate what you just said, Adam. They want certain things out of Andre Dillard. They want Jason Peters back, as we talked about. We'll see what happens. But if Jason doesn't come back, and we'll see what happens, then they really need Dillard to make that step. And unfortunately, and we'll probably wind up saying this a lot, this whole coronavirus outbreak, which may impact the phase 2 and the phase 3 when the coaches can finally start working with the players, it may negatively impact Andre Dillard and his ability to get in that weight room and get with the coaching staff, get with Stout, and work on some of the things. And you wonder now if that factors into how much they're willing to pay for certain guys like Jason Peters to come back, Adam. You don't have to worry about JP being ready to go. If this is like when they came out of the lockout in 2011 and Vic just didn't have a whole lot of time to work with the coaches, and he had an abominable September.
Well, the 11 situation was because they didn't open training. They didn't have an off season.
Right.
They opened everything up in mid to late July. The problem was this is when Reed decided to give Juan Castillo the defense coordinator job, and everything got exacerbated. Everything got magnified because you make such a great point. They didn't have time to develop the players. They didn't have time to get Nnamdi Asomugha comfortable in his hybrid role. The thing was an absolute disaster. Now, to move this forward here, I feel like the Eagles have to have a good veteran 6 lineman. I just don't see them as talented as Jordan Mailata is. He's never played an NFL regular season game.
Right. I agree. You got to have reinsurance.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a stud talent,
I should say.
Yeah. Yes, it was. You're right. So we'll
move on. Speaking of linemen, Adam, this is a good question. Chris Doherty, who submitted the question from the InsideTheBirds.com website, which is another great way to ask us questions, says, in our opinion, could defensive tackle Jaron Hargrave be a free agent target?
Javon Hargrave. Yeah, Javon Hargrave.
What did I say? Jaron? I'm sorry. Javon Hargrave. Yes. I was getting Jaron Curse and Javon Hargrave confused, right? Be a free agent target for the Birds. The Eagles were rumored to be interested prior to the draft. So, look, I've said before that I was told and the Eagles would like to be aggressive at the defensive tackle position, but you and I have said this too. It's not a cheap position to upgrade. Now, a guy like Hargrave I looked into, and I was told by 2 sources around the league that he's probably going to be a 12 to 14 million a year player. He was a rotational player who got moved into a starting job with the Steelers when Pruitt, I believe it was, got hurt, and he did really well, but not just well, right? He actually showed more interior pass rush than they even thought about it when they even drafted him for it, because Steelers are do a lot of 2-gapping. They don't always look for the interior pass rush the way, say, Jim Schwartz does, but he showed a lot of that. I think I had said it before. He had the same number of pressures as J.J. Watt, I believe, in the last month of the year.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So he's going to be expensive. So, the question is, if the Eagles strike out on Byron Jones and they don't get $17 million into a quarter, do they decide to put more money into another position that they would like to upgrade, be it wide receiver or defensive tackle? I don't know the answer to that. But I just, that price tag on Hargrave seems to me a little bit too steep for what the Eagles might want to pay.
Get a big deal. You change agents. He's it's
a
not
good player.
happening. He is. Big Grove is his nickname. He the kind of guys, look, they like a young upside D tackle like Hargrave, so you got to move down the list.
Mm-hmm.
Ashawn Robinson's out there,
right?
Who's good. He's young, relatively young. Other than that, there's just not a lot of guys out there. Wouldn't rule out Bo Allen making a return.
That would be good.
We'll see how that. The Eagles, though, the thing is they don't. He's one veteran I think they would actually bring back because he's just been a good story. David Onyemata, the kid from the Saints, is going to cost too much money.
Yeah. Now, I checked in on him and the market for him is supposed to be kind of close to what Hargrave's going to get, somewhere in that $12 million neighborhood, which is, again, we start talking about how much the Eagles are willing to spend.
Yeah, I don't see it because you can't pay a guy like you can't pay anyone at D tackle more than $4 million a year. They have to start. That's just the way it is. So it takes them out of it. To me, if they find the right guy, like a Tyler Davison who just re-signed with the Falcons.
Yeah, he just re-signed, right?
He would have been a great one, but there's really, I don't know that there's anyone out there, but fact of the matter is they're going to do something either in free agency or the draft. They're definitely going to have a young developmental guy. One or the other.
It's too bad because, I'd like to see one of those two guys. I think they're or any of those guys at defensive tackle because it's such a position of importance for Jim Schwartz. And we saw what Fletcher Cox can do when he's kind of has someone even remotely close to being good next to him. And hopefully Malik Jackson comes back strong.
That's what they want.
Is that guy, but you just can't tell. Certainly, even if he does, Malik is not a building block defensive tackle at this stage of his career.
Oh, and by the way, Malik Jackson, it's if he has a great season, it's still going to be hard to keep him in 2021. On our last show that Geoff and I did for last Thursday, I outlined the cap numbers in 2021. It's going to be hard to keep Jackson. I don't care if he has 15 sacks. It's going to be really, really hard just because of their cap issues, the challenges of a lot of older players they have 7 players, 30 or older for 2021, who was well into the double-digit cap numbers. It's just going to be very, very difficult to keep him. Mm-hmm. That's why they've got to get, Geoff, a developmental tackle in this draft.
All right. Speaking of developmental player, Adam, here's a good one from our website. It's just a question here that we got from InsideTheBirds.com.
Yeah, I can't tell the names. I'm sorry for people are asking a couple of these. We can't see the names, so go ahead.
Yeah. Would you trade this year's second-round pick and Derek Barnett to the Jaguars for Yannick Ngakoue? Do you think the Eagles? I'm sorry, Yannick Ngakoue. Do you think the Eagles or Jaguars would do that trade?
I don't think the Jags would do that. And I know Yannick doesn't want to play there anymore. I mean, he made it very clear on Twitter.
And they just traded their other DN, Calais Campbell, today.
Right. On Sunday, they got rid of Campbell. They got rid of his $15 million, and got a 5th-round pick back. It's a pretty good trade for them.
Yeah.
By the way, Calais is an awesome guy. He's a tremendous football player, but he's he's well into his 30s. I can't imagine they would do that because Yannick Ngakoue is one of the better speed rushers in the National Football League. Barnett, he's flashed, but he's never been able to put it together. Mm-hmm. If I'm the Jags, would they do it? This is just me speaking, but I kind of know what Ngakoue is and how people feel about him. Ngakoue is a better football player than Barnett.
Oh yeah,
I would think they would strongly consider this if the Eagles were throwing a first. This is just being. I'm just looking at this question and responding to it.
Wait, do you mean upgrading the second to a first, or saying a first, a second, and Derek Barnett?
No. It'd have to be this is just this is just knowing what the player's worth.
Right.
And Ngakoue, and people thought I was crazy saying that it would be a first round pick. Mm-hmm. He absolutely will get at least a first round pick. People are trying to talk about Chandler Jones. The Patriots, if you remember with Chandler Jones, he had an off the field issue, an odd one. He's actually a pretty good guy. He just had an odd off the field issue. The Patriots just wanted to dump him. They got a 2nd-round pick for him. That was a long time ago. I get that teams do look at other draft picks, other trades and stuff. Mm-hmm. I would think, just to summarize this and move on, I would think it would at least get the Jaguars to think about it if the Eagles were willing to give up Barnett in a first. And Ngakoue is just really unique. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's incredibly fast. And that's what they need.
All right. Well, and just for the record, I would trade Barnett and a 2nd-rounder for Ngakoue, but like you said, the Jaguars are probably looking for more. Yeah. So real quick, because we'll get one more question, but I never paused for a minute for a word from our great sponsors. So let's do that now. Hey, it's Geoff Mosher. Adam Caplan and I love using Anchor for our Inside the Birds podcast every week. It's so user-friendly, anyone can create their own podcast, and you should too. Just download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Anchor gives you everything you need to start your own podcast from your phone or computer. Its creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast for a professional sound, and Anchor will distribute your podcast for you to Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so many other platforms. It can be heard by everyone, just like Inside the Birds. You can also make money from your pod with no minimum listenership. What are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to create your podcast today. Hey, it's Geoff Mosher. Are you interested in money? Yep, I thought so. Well, on the Talk Money with Mesh Lakhani podcast, Mesh will follow paper trails, chat with experts, and break down complex ideas to bring clarity to the mystical financial phenomena and help listeners uncover the story behind their money. Each of these compelling stories will hit a broad range of subjects ranging from buying Bitcoin, dealing with student debt, and everything in between. So if you're interested in money, and I know you are, check out the Talk Money with Mesh Lakhani podcast on Anchor. Okay. Right. Last question, and we'll finish off this pod, and then everybody will get their popcorn ready for the NFL free agent festivities. Do you want to ask it, or do you want me to ask for you?
I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask this to you because this is an awesome question. This is our friend Marcos Levy at Levy Marcos 11 on Twitter. We have overpopulated position, CB, defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
If they sign Byron Jones, what will happen with Douglas Jones, LeBlanc, assuming Maddox would start at slot? BG and Barnett are the starters. Sweat, Avery, Osman, Miller. Oh, I forgot. I'm glad Marcos wrote this because I totally forgot about this. Osman and Hall are coming back from torn ACLs.
Correct.
So, Geoff, okay, so Marcos still thinks they're overloaded at DN. What are your thoughts at corner if they get Jones? And what happens at DN because they have a lot of guys?
All right, let's take corner. If Byron Jones signs, he's obviously starting. I believe Mills will – he's the wild card, right? Darby's out. So the question is, are the Eagles comfortable with Mills coming back? Do they feel like he can sign a 1-year value, prove-it deal at a team-friendly price that kind of mitigates the fact that you're pouring $16, $17 million into the other cornerback slot? You have a cost-efficient slot corner right now in Avonte Maddox. So that it's either going to be Mills or they're going to go and find another guy in the free agent market. But I still think they're going to draft corners, Adam. I think they're going to draft at least one or two, regardless of what they do, because they absolutely need to grow the position.
Said very well. The one thing I would add, Marcos, is that I would really like to see Jannard Avery at defensive end, see what they can do with him with the new coaching staff up front at the end on the D line. They're going to they're going to change their strategy in nickel. I think you're going to see some movement. They're going to be big with matchups with Matt. What's his name? What's the D line coach's name?
Matt Burke.
Matt Burke. Yeah, they're going to. He knows the wide nine better than anyone other than Schwartz because he's coached for Schwartzy at Detroit. That's where they know each other. And Matt ran the wide nine with the Dolphins in his 1 year. They're going to figure it out with Avery. He's incredibly explosive. Miller, they have no idea about. You should be on the football team, but he's got a long way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then a corner, Douglas will be on the football team. He's under contract in his last year. Jones is under contract. He'll be restricted, I'm told, once his contract is over.
Right.
He right now he's on the football team. I still think corner, though. I still think they have to draft someone, even if they get Byron Jones or some other cornerback.
I'd like to also point out that it's funny how much a difference a year makes because the addition of Jannard Avery may have actually wind up pushing Joe Osman out the door because they are similar in undersized kind of move around type DNs who can cause matchup problems, but clearly Avery is faster, more athletic, and they gave up a 4th round pick for him. But the big thing with defensive end, and I've run this around through some people, is obviously the Eagles know that they've got a lot of numbers, but they got to figure this thing out because they have too many numbers. So it's hard for me to see, even with the expanded rosters, both Avery and Osman on the team. I mean, to me, Avery, if he's what he's supposed to be, is in a little bit of an upgraded version of Osman. So with all those numbers and a lot of 4th round picks that they'd probably like to give a shot to, I don't know if you're going to see both Avery and Osman on the team unless one gets hurt.
Well, Osman was coming out.
Look, sorry.
Yeah, he was really going to be a 5th end. They're going to use him as a stand-up jack linebacker if he happened to not get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But look, Hall's injured. Osman's injured. Miller never played. Avery barely played. Sweat, he developed, no question. He was the one guy actually developed, in year 2. But they have so much unknown at the end. Again, depth is not having 10 players. It's about guys you feel good about.
Right.
Who do they really feel good about other than Graham, Barnett to a certain point, Sweat to a certain point?
And
they only got
Finney.
3.
Right.
Well, Vinny's not under contract.
Right, that's true. True.
So they don't have anyone other than those 3 guys that they can count on.
I'm with you on that. All right, I think that we've covered pretty much every question that we can get to. So now we just sit back. We don't sit back. You and
Great
I work
questions.
the phones.
Great
those are really good
questions.
questions.
Really good.
And I want to continue to emphasize to everybody, you've got a lot of different outlets to hit us up now on the InsideTheBirds.com, Ask ITB on Twitter, even our YouTube page. People are submitting questions in responses to our videos, and we're plucking them from there too. So we thank everybody for all their submissions. We continue to ask and that you rate, review, subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform. The more reviews we get, the better for us and the better the podcast can be. And the more we can give back to our great listeners. So I want to thank everybody for listening. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds. Thanks to our friends at 97.3 ESPN. Make sure you're checking out their website, 973ESPN.com, downloading their free mobile app at 973ESPN.com. And you can hear me. I've been on with Shander from 12 to 2, Mike Gill and the crew, Ryan Rothstein 2 to 6 every day, Monday through Friday. Also want to thank Hunter Brody, the producer of this podcast. He's always doing work here. You can find a lot of it at his YouTube page, Sports Talk with Broads. You can find his writings. He's even writing about the Sixers for the 97.3 ESPN.com homepage. So check him out on both those venues. And I believe this coming week he'll be doing some hosting on 97.3 as Gil takes vacation. So make sure you're listening on Hunter Brody on 97.3 ESPN. And of course, check out our YouTube page, our InsideTheBirds.com website. And as always, as we buckle up for a wild free agent ride, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.
If you're listening to this, you obviously like podcasts, and you probably like music too. On Spotify, you can listen to all of that in one place for free. That's right, you don't need a premium account. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcast so you never miss an episode. You can download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are. You can easily share what you're listening to with your friends via Spotify's integrations with social media platforms like Instagram. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now. Just search for Inside the Birds on the Spotify app or browse podcasts in the Your Library tab. And follow me, Geoff Mosher, so you never miss an episode of Inside the Birds. Spotify is the world's leading music streaming service, and now it can be your go-to for podcasts too.